This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, students. Am I audible?
Good afternoon, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Today we'll discuss about inguinal hernia. Now it has been might have been discussed, but I'll tell you certain points which are important both for theory and mostly for practicals. How you are supposed to answer. So we'll discuss today. So there might have been certain classes taken, but I'll tell you some key points. So previously hernia definition used to be mostly, now also it's the same, but hernia means protrusion of the contents through the wall of the protrusion of the contents of a cavity through the wall or a defect in the wall. So now what is written in Bailey and Love, please go refer it. A hernia is the bulging part of the contents of the abdominal cavity through a weakness in the abdominal wall. That means there's a weakness, either acquired or congenital weakness is there in the abdominal wall, and the contents of the abdominal cavity are bulging out. So this is known as hernia. Okay. As you all know, okay. Clinical examination. Three salient features between hernia and hydrocele. Hydrocele salient features I'll tell you. You please note down these points. Hydrocele salient features I'll tell you. You can get above the swelling. That means it is purely scrotal swelling. It's purely a scrotal swelling. You can get above the swelling means you can hold it like this. Get above, hold it like this. So it is purely scrotal swelling. Then always cystic in consistency, mostly. Cystic means filled with fluid. So cystic in consistency. So whenever clinical examination, whenever you are telling cystic in consistency, it is always cystic inconsistency is always followed by fluctuation and transillumination. So like fluctuation, you fix the hydrocele swelling like this, then you do like this, so it will be fluctuant. So fluctuation and transillumination. So always consistency will come first, cystic inconsistency, then fluctuation and transillumination. Okay, those are the 3 points of hydrocele. Here hernia, you cannot get above the swelling because it is coming from inside the abdominal cavity. So you cannot get above the swelling. So that's a key point. Okay, then hernia on inspection, please write down this, note down these points, we'll ask in the exam. So if the impulse is seen in the inguinal region, it is known as bubonocele. In the inguinal region itself, it's known as impulse, like cough impulse or swelling. In the inguinal region, it is known as bubonocele. So, and if it progresses further, comes into the mid of the scrotum, then it is known as funicular hernia. So it is known as funicular hernia. Then completely, if it descends into the scrotum, then it's a complete hernia. So bubonocele, funicular, and complete hernia, completely descended into the scrotum. So Then the clinical examination, 3 palpation and all the 3 key tests, 3 important tests. Siemens finger 3-finger test. Read up. These are simple tests. Index finger is kept at the deep inguinal ring, and little finger. Index finger is kept at the deep inguinal ring. Middle finger is kept at the superficial, and the ring finger is kept at the saphenous opening. So wherever the impulse is felt, then you'll tell. The indirect hernia comes out through, abdominal cavity, peritoneum, inside peritoneum, then fascia transversalis. Defect in the fascia transversalis is known as deep ring. So see, inside the abdominal cavity, peritoneum, then fascia transversalis. Fascia transversalis, the defect is known as deep ring. Then the deep ring, canal, and superficial ring, then it is indirect hernia. So deep ring, canal, okay, deep ring, canal, and superficial ring. So it's like a canal, deep ring that side and superficial ring. So whereas direct hernia comes out also through superficial ring, but it comes not from the canal, from the Hasselbalch's triangle. So Hasselbalch's triangle boundaries you should know. So lower part, inguinal ligament, then medially lateral border of the rectus, then the other side of the triangle, inferior epigastric vessels. So coming through the Hasselbalch's triangle, and coming through the this superficial ring, Hasselbalch's triangle and superficial ring, it is direct hernia. So indirect hernia comes through the canal. So ring invagination test, little finger is invaginated into the superficial ring. Hello? Mute yourself. Students, mute yourself. So, hey, mute yourself. Class rep Pawan, please tell everybody to mute yourself or mute them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, direct hernia comes through the Hasselbalch's triangle. Okay. So ring invagination test, when you invaginate, put this little finger inside the superficial ring, and ask the patient to cough. So if the hernia is coming like this, and hitting the tip here, see, this is the tip of the finger. So tip of the finger, it means it is coming through the deep ring, canal, and superficial ring. This into the superficial ring you have introduced the finger. So into the superficial ring you have introduced the finger. So it is so into the superficial ring. So if it hits the tip, then it is indirect hernia. So if it hits the pulp, the other side, that is, it's coming from the other side, from the Hasselbalch's triangle. So it is, then the test, you will know that it is direct hernia. So indirect hernia hits the tip, pulp hit by direct hernia. And the other test is deep ring occlusion test. Deep ring occlusion test. So when you occluded the deep ring and ask the patient to cough, if the impulse does not appear, then because deep ring is occluded, the hernia should come through the deep ring, go into the canal and come through the superficial ring. So if deep ring is occluded, then that means it is indirect hernia. Then others, you can deep ring is occluded and you see an impulse there at the superficial ring. That is indirect. I mean, conclusion is direct hernia because it is coming from Hasselbalch's triangle, and through the superficial ring. So always when you're taking history, you ask for 4 or 5 precipitating factors of hernia in history while history taking. Globular insidious onset, globular swelling, all these things. Then okay, then what precipitated that hernia? History of lifting weights, then difficulty in micturition, an elderly patient. So benign prostatic hyperplasia, patient is straining while urinating. So benign prostatic hyperplasia, difficulty in micturition, dysuria, and there are lots of symptoms. So it's just ask, poor flow on all so many symptoms are there. Just ask if there is dysuria, difficulty in micturition. Then straining at stools, straining via stools. So all these raise the intra-abdominal pressure, and so that lead to protrusion of the contents, abdominal contents, through these defects. So history of lifting weights, history of lifting weights, then dysuria, then straining during constipation is there, then patient is straining at time of defecation. So then all these, suppose even gross ascites also, then the abdomen pressure raises, that can also lead to hernia. Usually fluid forms, goes like content. So so these are the 3 important tests. Go back, read, simple to perform and easy to arrive at a conclusion. So please don't make mistakes in these basic tests. Siemens technique, ring ring occlusion and ring invagination tests. So please read up these 3 tests, very easy to perform. Then you can come at a conclusive diagnosis. So see, I already told you, anytime varicose veins or hernia or anything, if it is bilateral, then you ask the skilled assistant professor, or usually you will examine the most prominent side. So you can tell us bilateral, but I examine because only limited time now, 45 minutes. So you examine the suppose right side is more prominent, you say right sided. I'll give the bilateral hernia, but I examined right side. So, or unilateral only it's there, you can write a diagnosis should be complete. right-sided, right-sided inguinal indirect hernia with, bowel as content with no complications. So something like that. So that explains in full. So that is how your diagnosis is going to be. Okay. Then let's go to the, little bit of anatomy here. So when they ask what are the contents of the canal, what are the contents of the inguinal canal, you say ilioinguinal nerve and cord structures. Okay, in females round ligament. So male patient, so ilioinguinal nerve and cord structures. So the answer is going to be, what are the contents of the canal? Inguinal canal means cord structures and the ilioinguinal nerve. Suppose the sac is also present, then okay, the hernial sac, which forms, okay, is a part of the canal. So otherwise ilioinguinal nerve and cord structures. So then the next question is going to be, what are cord structures? What are cord structures? Then you tell all these 6-7 things. Vas deferens, then 3 arteries. Remember, 3 arteries: artery to the vas, testicular artery, then artery to the cremaster, then pampiniform plexus of veins, then genital branch of genitofemoral nerve. So so all of these structures are cord structures. So what is superficial ring? It's a defect in the external spermatic fascia. So external spermatic fascia. Deep ring is a defect in the fascia transversalis. So then differences between, if they ask differences between omentocele and enterocele, omentocele and enterocele, then this is how you describe: inspection, then palpation, percussion, and auscultation, in this order. So inspection, visible peristalsis is seen in case of enterocele, whereas omentocele there is no peristalsis. Then palpation, omentum is dovey, dovey, D-O-U-G-H-Y, dovey in consistency, whereas intestine is elastic in consistency. Then intestine, initially it is difficult, then because of the contents have to be reduced, then the last part slips easily. So initially difficult, last part easy, that is intestine. Whereas omentum, it appears to be easy initially, and the last part won't go in. So that is about reducibility. Then and please remember, mostly reducible hernias only will be kept for the exam. So only after you have reduced, then you can do all these 3 tests. So if the hernia is irreducible, then there is no point, you cannot do all these Zeeman's ring occlusion and all, because the canal is full. Where are you going to invaginate the finger? So only after reduction. So mostly reducible cases only will be kept for the exam. So what we are discussing now? Yeah, I finished this anatomy briefly. Contents of the canal, then the cord structures, then let's go on. Okay, the differences between omentous seal and I told you. Inspection I told you, palpation I told you. Then percussion, the note will be resonant in case of enteroseal, whereas dull in case of omentous seal. Then auscultation, vowel sounds will be heard. Vowel sounds will be heard in case of enteroseal. Then in omentous seal, it is vowel sounds are not heard. So these are the few of the differences between enteroseal and omentous seal. So then what is the sac? That hernial sac. Sac is nothing but a part of a pouch of peritoneum. It's a pouch of peritoneum through which the contents come out along with the this. So when the examiner asks you to draw, is the image clear?
Yes, sir.
That is the sac. Mouth, neck, body and fundus. Mouth, neck, body and fundus. So please draw that. So into the mouth of the sac, the contents will, then the neck, then the body and fundus. Significance of it we'll learn. Okay. During surgeries, Okay, here again I'll tell you. Madel's hernia. Look at this diagram. A W-shaped loop of intestine. A W-shaped of intestine. A loop of intestine which is W-shaped. W-shaped has entered the sac. So W-shaped intestine has entered the sac. So then that is called Madel's hernia. I have written there M. Madel's hernia. Mayls, Madel's hernia. So what you do is, so it is W-shaped, right? You hold the other two interloop 1 is prone for strangulation. So interloop segment is prone for strangulation. Interloops. So you hold the other two and then pull the interloop outside and check if the interloop segment is all right or turned gangrenous. So that is called Madel's. Then Richter hernia. What is meant by Richter hernia? Anybody? Richeters. See here, see this one here, not medals, this one. So here what happens is, on the top is the bowel loop. On the top is the bowel loop in continuity. So what happens is, one circumference, one circumference of the bowel loop is entering the hernial sac. So, and it will get twisted. But since the whole lumen is not obstructed, initially there will not be any obstruction. So this is called Richter's hernia. See, remember all of these hernias, these have been asked multiple times as short notes. So Richter's hernia, because the whole loop, only the circumference is entering the that is the Richter's hernia. I'll mark R. So that is Richter's hernia. You draw the diagrams in the exam also. So only the circumference of the bowel loop is entering the sac. So the lumen of the bowel is not obstructed. But you know that circumference which has entered, it can get twisted. Then later, you know, initially it is present, that irritative symptoms will present like diarrhea or something. Then a full-blown peritonitis will occur. So and that will necrose, then the obstruction will be there, then signs of peritonitis will be there. So that is Richter's hernia, when a circumference of the bowel loop enters the hernial sac. Then if Meckel's diverticulum enters the sac, it is known as Litter's hernia. Littre, Litter's hernia. Meckel's diverticulum. Then if an appendix enters the hernial sac, it is called what?
Amyan hernia.
Amyan hernia. Okay. AMAYND, Amyan's hernia. So then what is a slider? I will draw a bigger right. What is a sliding hernia? See, you draw these diagrams in the exam. Last one, this is known as slider. You can see the mouth, neck and body, and last one is fundus of the. Here, the slider, the one half of the hernial sac, the wall, I mean one half of the part of the hernial sac is formed by the bowel loop itself. So here there is not going to be, you know, when you just open at the fundus and just when you see a slider, then close it, we are not going to remove the sac, because the sac one side itself is formed by the bowel loop. Sliding hernia. So then push it inside and close. So what is pantaloon hernia? So both direct and indirect sac will be there in the, so that is known as pantaloon hernia. So these are all the you know, different types of hernias. So next we'll move on to the complications of hernia. The previous edition of Bailey and Love used to tell, types of hernia according to the complications. Complications of hernia. So now the latest Bailey is calling it what are the types of hernia. So it makes no difference. These are the complications only. So it is first one is occult. That is, you cannot see. There is obviously no hernia when it has not yet developed. It's not even a bubonocele, and there is no cough impulse also. So it is unrecognizable. So occult, that is what the current Bailey and Love says. Okay. Then next will be reducible. When they ask about complications, you please tell in an order. So first complication will be what? First it is reducible. Then reducibility is not a complication. So then it gets irreducible. Irreducibility is a complication. So why has irreducibility occurred? Please note down all this. Because of the adhesions formation. Adhesions between what? Between the contents and the sac and the sac, contents and the contents, multiple adhesions are formed. So it will be little difficult to release all the additions and then push the contents inside. So that is irreducibility. After irreducibility comes the complication obstruction. Obstruction means what? Obstruction means nothing else. Please remember, bowel obstruction. The bowel which is there in the which is formed the content has got obstructed. So what are the features of bowel obstruction? See, I want you to tell quickly. So please remember, read all these chapters. Features of bowel obstruction are what? Features of bowel obstruction: abdominal distension, vomiting, then constipation or obstipation. Obstipation is flatus is also not passed. Then obstipation, then abdominal distension, central colicky abdominal pain. Initially there will be colicky abdominal pain because the intestines are trying to overcome the obstruction. But if it is a dynamic obstruction, a dynamic cause is there, then until a surgeon intervenes or somebody intervenes, the dynamic cause is not going to get relieved. It is by drugs. It is not like paralytic ileus. So features of bowel obstruction, again, abdominal distension, then vomiting if it is a higher obstruction, higher part like small bowel and all this higher. Then lower the obstruction, then constipation will be the early feature. So constipation, obstipation is not passing flatus. Then central colicky abdominal pain. So and not absent bowel sounds. So initially there will be hyperperistaltic bowel sounds because the bowel is trying to overcome the obstruction, whatever is there. So then so there'll be increased peristalsis. Afterwards, bowel gets tired. Then absent bowel sounds. Then very late stages. So what happens when the bowel gets obstructed? All that intestinal contents, all these saliva, pancreatic juice, bile juice, intestinal succus entericus, all these things, depends on the level of the obstruction, are not absorbed. So much fluid is floating around in the bowel loops, then if you shake the patient, you will hear tinkling bell sounds. These are called tinkling bell sounds. You shake the, put the steth on the patient's stomach and shake the patient, you can hear like, ting, 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 like that, bells, like bell sounds, tinkling bell sounds, because of the movement of the water in the fluid in the intestines. So late stages, this is not always demonstrable, but we have seen a few cases where tinkling bell sounds are heard, gross abdominal distension, and with features of obstruction. So these are all the features of obstruction. So please don't write something else like something else got obstructed. Here clearly what is meant by obstruction means the content, which is a bowel, got obstructed. So features of bowel obstruction will be there. Simplest tool, no need of any fancy investigations. Okay, fine, CT will tell you the cause, but simple plain X-ray abdomen with correlate with the clinical features. Multiple air fluid levels will be seen. So when you come here before practicals and all, we'll demonstrate few X-rays. Out of that, intestinal obstruction and intestinal perforation or duodenal perforation, those, how to read those X-rays are more important. So we'll go to that later. So multiple air fluid levels will be seen in the step ladder pattern. So that itself is a clue that there is an obstruction. And these are the two of the most important surgeries in general surgery emergencies mostly. So intestinal obstruction and hollow viscous perforation. Okay, so here intestinal obstruction. So after obstruction occurs strangulation. Before that, I'll tell you about one more obstruction. Incarceration. INCR. CE. Incarceration. Just look up the spelling. So what does incarceration means? So here it is a type of obstruction where the whole of the bowel loops are filled with the fecal matter. So it is not like intermittent, but the whole of the bowel loops are filled with fecal matter. And on palpation, the consistency of the abdomen will be putty in consistency, PUTTY. So that is a type of obstruction where the whole of the bowel loops are filled with fecal matter. That is incarceration. So next, strangulation. What is meant by strangulation? Means what? Intestinal obstruction plus the blood supply to the intestines is cut off. So that will lead to strangulation of the hernia. So most often somebody will, at casualty, somebody will tell this is strangulated hernia. Just because it is irreducible does not mean that it is strangulated. Irreducible hernia is simply irreducible. It is irreducible because of the additions. It is not strangulated. I'll tell you the features of strangulated hernia. First, pathophysiology of the strangulation. What happens? I told you this is the sac, right? Initially, the sac, inside will be the contents, the intestines, first what gets cut off? They'll ask you. All these questions are important in practicals. So they'll ask you. So what gets cut off means first venous return gets cut off. Venous is towards the periphery. So venous return gets cut off. Then there is engorgement of the intestine. So then what happens? Then more lymphatics will get cut off, more edema, then more this thing. Then finally the artery is in the center. in the mesentery. So artery is in the center, in the mesentery, the mesenteric pedicle. So arterial supply finally gets cut off. Arterial supply finally gets cut off. So that will lead to total gangrene of the intestines. So intestines will become. So the next complication, the Bailey and Love described as infarction. Infarction means nothing. Infarction means the same thing like gangrene of the intestine. So it is just another term. So obviously strangulation will lead to infarction, bowel infarction. So like myocardial infarction, bowel infarction occurs. So here gangrene of the bowel. So first venous return is impaired, then more edema, lymphatics are cut off, all the more edema, then finally due to this congestion, arterial supply gets cut off, then there is frank gangrene of the intestines. So that is the strangulated hernia. So local examination of a strangulated hernia, you will find local examination, the whole thing is warmth is there, tenderness is there, severe tenderness, tenderness is there. Of course, irreducibility is always there. Irreducibility is there. Warmth is there. Tenderness is there, and signs of systemic toxicity are there. Like what? Like tachycardia and hypotension. That itself is shock. So patient is shocked. Tachycardia and hypotension is there. Tachycardia and hypotension. Then signs of toxicity. So what you will do, immediately start resuscitation as per this airway breathing circulation. Patient is very drowsy and ill, means ventilate and intubate and put on ventilator, then resuscitate, give the IV fluids, and then check the electrolyte imbalance, correct, and then take up for surgery. Okay, here strangulated hernia, I'll tell you few differences here. Usually in while doing herniatomy, you will open at the neck of the, see, this is the neck. So neck of the sac is open. So whereas if you strangulation, if you suspect, pull and fundus of the sac is open. So there are a few reasons. Please note down why fundus of the sac is open. Neck. So you're taken out that hernia, given the incision, inguinal incision, and taken out the content. Then if you cut at the neck, neck is the most constricted part. So everything will go inside. So all the bowel loop, before you can examine, it will go inside. So the neck of the sac, if you open, then the constriction is released, then the bowel loop will go inside. Then what you have to do, then you have to open the whole of abdominal cavity, laparotomy incision you have to take. So here, if you open if you open at the fundus of the sac, then you can have a control over the bowel loops so that they won't slip and go back inside. So open the fundus and then examine the contents, the bowel loops, are they healthy or not. So sometimes frank gangrene is present, means I've seen many people writing answer, resection is the answer, like resection, and afterwards what? You have to restore the bowel continuity. So please write anywhere else when you're writing resection and end-to-end anastomosis, or resection and anastomosis to restore the continuity of the any GI tract or bowel loop. So resection and end-to-end anastomosis. Okay, there are side end-to-side anastomosis and all that, all resection and anastomosis, or resection and end-to-end anastomosis you can write. Okay, so sometimes here they'll ask you, you know, how will you know the difference if the bowel is strangulated or not? So there are three clear features which will sometimes the bowel will appear like appear little dull, but we are not sure whether it is entirely gangrenous or ischemic bowel or healthy bowel. So here what we should do clearly I'll tell you. So anyway, anytime you are doing crucial surgeries like this, the OR nurse, OT nurse, uh, hot saline will be ready, not normal saline. Normal saline with a higher temperature. So this hot normal saline, these mops, hot wet mops, hot wet mops are placed on over the bowel loops, and now this mostly these toxic cases, some GA will be given, or whatever. Tell the anesthesiologist to give 100% oxygen. If some mixture of some other gases, anesthetic gases or something is going on, stop it and give at least for 15 to 20 minutes, give 100% oxygen. 100% oxygen, place hot wet mops on the bowel loops. Then afterwards, after 15 to 20 minutes, with 100% oxygen being given, hot wet mops are there. Then you remove the mops and then see. Look for what? Three things you look for mainly. The color of the bowel has changed into pink. Healthy bowel is almost pink in color, whereas unhealthy is dull, or frank gangrene is present, is dark green or black. So now here color improvement is there. Then you tap like this on the bowel loop. Then you can see the peristalsis. So peristalsis is there, color improvement is there, peristalsis is there. Then adjacent the pulsations in the mesenteric vessels, mesenteric arteries. See, blood supply to the bowel is through the mesentery only. So the vessels lie in the mesentery. So you can see the vessels are pulsatile. So pulsatile vessels are there. So pulsatile vessels, then improvement in color, and peristalsis is there. So now bowel is healthy, put it back, and then you do herniorrhaphy. Okay. But even in such cases, people are, even though gangrene is there, resection and anastomosis, then after that people are taking chances and then putting mesh. Ideally mesh is not recommended, because these already toxic fluid, everything is there. The chances of mesh getting infected is there. So but you can write mesh is not always recommended, but some of the surgeons are doing resection and anastomosis. Then under full antibiotic coverage, then mesh plasty is being done. Like, we'll go to the surgeries now. What are the surgeries? I'll describe the surgeries. Okay. So I told you in the canal, in the inguinal canal, the contents of the canal are what? Ilioinguinal nerve, and cord structures, okay, and the sac. Okay, so here what we do is ilioinguinal nerve, you pick it up and pull it aside and place it away from the field of surgery. Later, when everything is you are about to close the external, before external oblique, then you can place the nerve back. And nerve should not be entrapped in any of the sutures. While you're doing some suturing through the bites, nerve entrapment will cause a lot of nuisance. So patient will be constantly complaining of neuralgia and discomfortness, and he'll repeatedly come to you and ask, I'm not happy, I'm not relieved of pain, what is this? So all these are unnecessary. Okay, so safeguard the nerve. Okay, so this definition, I don't know, only 100 students are there. We will ask in exam. Open your mouth and tell. Okay, this removal of the, you make an inguinal incision, then all, cut the ligate the artery that are there in superficial plane, then external oblique aponeurosis, then the you defect in external oblique aponeurosis is the superficial ring. So then you open it, then you'll see, enter the canal. Okay, then remove the cremasteric fibers, then you start to, in the contents of the canal, contents of the canal are ilioinguinal nerve, say pull it aside, then separation of cord structures from the sac. So how far will you go on separating? They are almost attached to each other, so you keep on pulling, separate the cord structure from the sac. Sac is recognized here. This is the sac. I showed you this is the sac. So this one, all of these are sac. This one I showed you, mouth, neck, body, and fundus. Okay, so fundus will be the the protruding one, which is there, which you can see. So, and it will whole of the sac is attached to cord structures. So you'll keep separating. How far will you go? You'll go up to the neck of the sac. You please draw the diagram. This is all there in Bailey and Love. Few diagrams are there, but short cases it is all there. Please buy that. So here neck, you'll go up to the neck of the sac. Neck of the sac is identified by what? Two important structures or two important things are present there. Preperitoneal pad of fat. Please note down, preperitoneal pad of fat and inferior epigastric artery pulsations are noted. So that's when you know you have gone up till neck of the sac. So what do you do? Then you open the sac. See, once again, that is the mouth. Mouth is on the other side. So this is the fundus. So from fundus, you're going higher up till the neck, separating all the structures. So what do you do here? Here you open the sac, reduce all the contents. Just see what is there inside the sac. Just see what is there inside the sac. Reduce the contents like bowel loops or omentum, whatever it is. Reduce inside, reduce the contents inside. Then you twist the sac, twist it. The whole sac, this empty sac, which is nothing but a pouch of peritoneum. So you twist the sac. So you twist the sac, twist it, and suppose this is a sac, you twist it like this, twist it, and through the sac you will take a bite. So here pass, absorbable suture material. So one side and then come out through the other side. This is known as transfixation. So the sac is there. So suppose this is a sac. Through the sac you take a bite, come out from this side, then like this, going from one side and coming out through another side with absorbable suture material. Then you go around it. That is called ligation. Initial step is called transfixation. So transfixation, ligation, and excision of the sac is known as herniotomy. Not just simply removal of the sac. Okay, sac is removed. We all know that. But how did you remove it? Why did you at all twist the sac? You are twisting the sac because while taking transfixation and ligation, a bowel loop or omentum, something from the abdominal cavity is not going to come up if you have twisted it, because the whole lumen, everything is occluded. So that empty sac, you don't want anything else to enter into the sac. So you twist it, then transfixation, that is through the bowel loop you have taken a suture, then round it, mostly it's absorbable suture, so either catgut or vicryl. So transfixation, then round it, ligate. So transfixation, ligation, and that excess portion of the sac you cut it out like this, then that is known as herniotomy. So next time when we ask what is herniotomy, you tell the entire thing. Transfixation, or you tell sac is opened at its neck, contents are pushed inside, then sac is twisted. Transfixation, ligation, and excision of the sac is known as herniotomy. So once herniotomy is done, then we'll go to either herniorrhaphy or hernioplasty. Herniorrhaphy or hernioplasty. See, transfixation alone is enough in children, because here hernia has appeared due to presence of congenital sac, not due to laxity of any muscles. So that congenital sac you are removing, so that's all. So the herniotomy alone is enough in children. So next we'll go to herniorrhaphy. So here you can see conjoint tendon, pubic tubercle, and ilioinguinal nerve. So what is meant by herniorrhaphy? Approximation of, see, on the superior, top inferiorly you can see inguinal ligament. On the top you can see conjoint tendon, conjoined or conjoint tendon. So it's an union of two muscles. I hope you know what conjoint tendon is. So inferior oblique and
Transverse abdominis.
transverse abdominis. Good. Okay. So conjoint tendon and inguinal ligament are approximated. Approximation of conjoint tendon and inguinal ligament. So I'll finish the class in another 5 minutes. So sutures you put, conjoint tendon and inguinal ligament are approximated using non-absorbable suture material like Prolene, interrupted stitches. So 3 to 4 interrupted stitches, if you put, it is more than enough. That is herniorrhaphy. That is Bessinis repair. Bessinis repair or modified Bessinis, what we are doing now is approximation of conjoint tendon and inguinal ligament using non-absorbable suture materials like Prolene, interrupted stitches. Then, okay, other two herniorrhaphy itself, I will tell you. So, see this canal, you can see one side it's going to be deep ring, other side, superficial ring. So, strengthening of deep ring is known as Lytle's repair, LYTTLE. Deep ring is nothing but defect in fascia transversalis. So from that peritoneal pouch, that is hernia and the contents are coming. So deep ring, canal and superficial ring. So that deep ring, if it is patulous, you strengthen it, you make it more narrow. That is known as Lytle's, LYTTLE. So Lytle's repair. So at the deep ring itself, you are doing double breasting of fascia transversalis. So that is known as Scholl's repair. So what is Scholl's repair? Double breasting of fascia. See, you have a coat, you are wearing a coat. Suppose this is a shirt, okay. So what happens is, this coat, the upper surface you'll bring like this, the inner surface will go like this. So that is known as double breasting. So next time you're here, I'll demonstrate you. So one part of the coat, the upper surface, this surface you'll take it into the class in the okay. That double breasting of fascia transversalis is known as is known as Scholl's repair. So next, these are all hernioplasties. So next, I'll tell you what we are doing. I mean, these are all known as herniorrhaphies. Sorry, herniorrhaphies. So nowadays, what we are doing is hernioplasty. That is, a mesh is placed between conjoint tendon. Mesh is placed between conjoint tendon and inguinal ligament, and it is anchored. Non-absorbable mesh, Prolene mesh, is placed between conjoint tendon and inguinal ligament. So this is then it is anchored on that side, one side to conjoint tendon, one side to inguinal ligament using Prolene. So tension free lichen stains, mesh plasty. So mesh plasty is being done. Why it is being done now, even in young patients, or I mean adult patient and not kids, even the herniorrhaphy is indicated, hernioplasty is being done. So I'll explain that in next class. Meanwhile, you please go, there's another class it seems. So you please go through all this, and any doubts you can ask me. So next class, little bit what is left over in this session, I'll teach you in next class. So goodbye. Class rep, you please give the attendance. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, sir.